Your motivation usually does not die because you are careless. It dies because the way you are trying to change makes progress feel too distant, too heavy, and too unrewarding. You begin with energy. You imagine the better body, the better mind, the cleaner routine, the stronger version of yourself. For a moment, everything feels possible. Then a few days pass, the excitement fades, and the same task that once inspired you starts to feel like pressure. This is where many people blame themselves. They call it weakness. They call it laziness. But something deeper is happening. Your brain is not rejecting growth. It is rejecting a system that gives it effort now and reward much later. And once you understand this pattern, you stop trying to force progress through guilt and start building a way forward your mind can actually follow. Motivation is strongest when your brain can feel a connection between action and reward. On the first day, the reward feels close because your imagination is doing the work. You picture the result so clearly that the effort feels meaningful. But imagination does not keep paying the mind forever. After a few days, your brain stops responding to the fantasy and starts measuring the real cost of the habit. This is why the third day can feel so strangely heavy. The workout is still there, the study session is still there, the uncomfortable task is still there, but the emotional high that carried you at the beginning is gone. Suddenly, the goal feels far away, and the effort feels very present. You are not broken. Your mind is simply asking why it should keep spending energy without receiving proof that the effort matters. The first shift is to stop depending on distant motivation. A future result is not enough to keep you consistent. You need closer signals of progress. You need small wins that your brain can recognize today. When progress becomes visible, the mind has a reason to continue. You thought you needed more motivation. You needed a reward system your daily life could actually support. When you avoid a task, it is easy to assume the worst about yourself. You may think you lack discipline, focus, or seriousness, but often avoidance is not laziness, it is protection. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, avoid pain, and move toward what feels rewarding. If your growth system feels like punishment, your mind will naturally look for an escape. You see this in small daily moments. You open the course but reach for your phone. You plan to exercise but suddenly feel tired. You decide to eat better but negotiate with yourself by the evening. The behavior looks like weakness from the outside, but inside, your brain is moving away from discomfort that has no immediate emotional return. That is where the pattern repeats. Clarity begins when you stop attacking your own mind and start designing around how it works. This does not mean making life easy. It means making progress less hostile. If your brain needs proof, give it proof. If it needs reward, give it reward. If it needs a smaller first step, respect that. Growth becomes stronger when it stops feeling like a threat. A big goal can inspire you, but it can also overwhelm you. The same vision that gives you energy at the beginning can become pressure when your daily actions feel too small compared to the size of the outcome. You want to change your body, your money, your habits, your focus, and your confidence. But your brain is not living inside the final result. It is living inside today's effort. This is why large goals often turn into quiet self-criticism. You miss one day, and suddenly it feels like proof that you're not serious. You eat badly once, and the whole plan feels ruined. You skip one session, and your mind starts building a story that you never finish anything. The real damage is not the missed action. It is the identity you start accepting after repeating the miss. The solution is not to stop having big goals. The solution is to translate them into smaller missions. Do not ask your brain to become a different person overnight. Ask it to complete one clear action today. 10 minutes, one page, one walk, one message, one focused block. Small actions reduce emotional pressure and give your identity something solid to stand on. One of the hardest parts of personal growth is that progress often happens quietly. You may be improving, but the improvement is not always obvious. Your body does not transform in one workout. Your confidence does not rebuild after one difficult conversation. Your focus does not return after one disciplined morning. Because the change is slow, the brain can start believing nothing is happening. That is when distraction becomes attractive. Your phone gives instant feedback, a notification, a message, a short video, a small hit of stimulation. Your real goals are asking for patience while your distractions are giving rewards. Now, without visible progress, your brain will keep choosing the thing that proves itself immediately over the thing that only promises a future benefit. So you need to make progress visible on purpose. Mark the task, track the streak, write down the win. Let your brain see that the action counted. This is not childish, it is practical. When the mind sees evidence, it relaxes into the process. Progress becomes easier when your brain stops feeling like it is sacrificing energy into silence. A micro-challenge is a small action with a clear finish line. It works because your brain can understand it quickly. It does not feel endless. It does not demand a total identity change before you begin. It gives you a simple mission that can be completed now. And completion matters because the brain responds differently to finished actions than it does to vague intentions. Instead of saying you will change your whole life, you give yourself something specific. Do 15 minutes of focused work. Drink water before checking your phone. Clean one small area. Read 2 pages, send 1 message you have been avoiding. These actions may look small, but they interrupt the cycle of avoidance. They create movement where your mind expected resistance. This is where momentum begins. Not from a dramatic transformation, but from a completed promise. Every micro-challenge tells your brain that progress is possible, safe, and rewarding. You stop waiting to feel ready and start giving your mind proof that you can move. The next part is quieter, but more important. Once you learn to finish small missions, you begin rebuilding trust with yourself. Growth becomes harder when every improvement feels like a punishment for who you are right now. You try to build better habits, but underneath the plan there is shame. You are not training because you respect your body. You're training because you hate how you look. You're not studying because you value your future. You're studying because you feel behind. That emotional pressure changes the entire experience. When growth is built on self-rejection, your brain starts associating improvement with pain. The gym becomes a place where you feel judged. Work becomes a reminder that you are not enough. Silence becomes uncomfortable because it exposes everything you have been avoiding. You may still push for a while, but internally the habit begins to feel like another form of emotional punishment. The reframe is simple, but not easy. You're not changing because you are worthless. You are changing because your life deserves better care. This is not punishment. This is self-respect. When the action comes from respect instead of shame, the mind stops resisting as much. It begins to understand that growth is not an attack. It is a form of protection. Quick pleasure wins because it asks for almost nothing and gives your brain something immediately. A scroll, a snack, a notification, a distraction, a comfortable excuse. These things do not need your patience. They do not ask you to believe in a future version of yourself. They offer relief right now. And when you are tired, uncertain, or emotionally drained, relief can feel more convincing than progress. The problem is not that you enjoy comfort. The problem is that comfort can quietly become your main decision maker. You avoid one difficult task, then another, then another. You keep choosing what calms you for 10 minutes while delaying what would strengthen you for years. Slowly, your life starts being shaped by whatever gives the fastest escape from discomfort. You do not beat quick pleasure by pretending you do not want it. You beat it by making progress rewarding enough to compete. Give your mind a small win before it reaches for escape. Complete one mission before the distraction. Build a rhythm where effort also gives relief. When progress starts to feel rewarding, pleasure is no longer only found in avoidance. Overstimulation trains your brain to expect constant novelty. Something new every few seconds. A new image, a new message, a new opinion, a new problem, a new distraction. After enough exposure, normal progress starts feeling too quiet. Reading feels slow, training feels repetitive, building a skill feels dull, not because the goal is meaningless, but because your attention has been trained to need noise. This is where many people confuse boredom with failure. They start a habit, then feel nothing exciting, and assume the habit is not working. But real progress often feels ordinary while it is happening. The work is calm, the improvement is slow. The results are delayed. If your brain is used to constant stimulation, this ordinary rhythm can feel like emptiness. Slow down here. Boredom is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it is the doorway back to control. When you reduce the noise, your attention begins to recover. And when your attention recovers, small tasks become easier to finish. Progress does not need to feel entertaining all the time. It needs to feel meaningful enough to continue. Self-betrayal rarely begins with one dramatic failure. It begins with small promises you keep abandoning. You say you will wake up earlier, but you do not. You say you will focus, but you keep checking your phone. You say you will stop delaying the same decision, but another week passes. Each moment may seem small, but your mind is paying attention. Over time, broken promises change the way you see yourself. You begin to trust your excuses more than your intentions. You hesitate before committing because part of you already expects the pattern to repeat. That is the real cost. Not the missed workout, not the unfinished page, not the delayed task. The deeper cost is losing confidence in your own word. The way back is not through a huge promise, it is through a promise so small you can keep it today. Make it clear, make it honest, make it finishable, then complete it. That one action will not fix everything, but it starts repairing the relationship between your intention and your behavior. Trust with yourself is rebuilt the same way it was damaged, through repetition. Waiting until you feel ready sounds reasonable, but it often becomes a quiet form of avoidance. You wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right plan, the right confidence, the right moment. But readiness does not always arrive before action. Many times, readiness is created by action. You move first and the mind catches up later. This trap shows up in ordinary ways. You delay the project because you want more clarity. You avoid the gym because you want more motivation. You postpone the conversation because you want to feel calmer. Days pass while you keep preparing emotionally for a life that requires movement. And the longer you wait, the heavier the first step becomes. The next shift is to lower the emotional requirement for starting. You do not need to feel inspired to begin. You only need to complete the first small mission. 2 minutes of movement, 1 sentence written, 1 page opened, 1 decision made. Action does not have to begin with confidence. Sometimes confidence is the reward your brain gives you after you stop waiting. Many people imagine discipline as something intense, strict, and dramatic. They think it should feel like a hard internal command. But the strongest form of discipline is often quiet. It is not a speech you give yourself. It is a simple decision, repeated, when no one is watching. It is choosing the next right action without needing emotion to approve it first. When discipline is too loud, it often burns out quickly. You announce a new routine, raise the pressure, demand perfection, and then feel ashamed the moment your energy drops. The habit becomes tied to intensity instead of consistency, and when the intensity disappears, the entire system collapses because it was built on emotional force instead of stable structure. Real discipline is calmer than that. It looks like doing the small task even when the mood is ordinary. It looks like keeping the promise without turning it into a performance. This is where real change begins. You stop needing to feel powerful before you act. You become powerful because you act when the feeling is not there. When your life is full of noise, it becomes difficult to notice what is actually driving your behavior. You move from task to task, screen to screen, distraction to distraction, without ever sitting long enough to see the pattern. Noise gives you relief, but it also hides the truth. It keeps you busy enough to avoid understanding yourself. This is why silence can feel uncomfortable at first. When the phone is away, when the room is quiet, when there is no quick stimulation to escape into, you begin to notice the thoughts you have been running from. You see the excuses more clearly. You feel the anxiety behind the delay. You recognize how often you reach for distraction before facing discomfort. But silence is not there to punish you. It is there to return your attention to you. Even a few quiet minutes can reveal what constant noise keeps covering. You do not need to disappear from the world. You need moments where your mind is not being pulled in every direction. Less noise makes the next right action easier to see. You can build motivation, create micro-challenges, and start making progress, but without boundaries, your progress will keep leaking away. Boundaries are not only about other people, they are also about your attention, your time, your habits, and your environment. A life without boundaries forces your willpower to fight battles your structure should have prevented. You see this when you try to focus with your phone beside you. You try to rest while still answering every message. You try to build a new routine while leaving the old distractions untouched. Then you blame yourself for failing, when the truth is simpler. Your environment keeps inviting the version of you that you are trying to outgrow. A boundary is a quiet act of self-protection. Put the phone away. Block the time. Say no before resentment builds. Remove the easy escape. Protect the first hour, protect the last hour, protect the small mission that keeps rebuilding you. This is not about becoming rigid, it is about creating a life where your better choices are not constantly under attack. You do not become a different person because you feel inspired for a moment. You become different when your actions start giving your mind new evidence. Identity is not only something you declare, it is something your brain observes. Every repeated action quietly answers the question, who am I becoming? If you keep delaying, your mind learns that you are someone who delays. If you keep breaking promises, your mind learns that your word is If you keep escaping discomfort, your mind learns that discomfort is stronger than your direction. The dangerous part is that these lessons do not always feel dramatic, they become familiar, and familiar patterns start feeling like personality. But identity can be rebuilt the same way. Small evidence, repeated often, you complete the task, you keep the promise. You return after a bad day instead of quitting completely. Slowly, your brain begins to update the story. You are no longer trying to convince yourself that you are changing. Your behavior is doing the convincing for you. Responsibility can feel heavy when you see it as blame, but responsibility is not about attacking yourself for every mistake. It is about taking your power back from the excuses that keep you stuck. The moment you become responsible for your patterns, you stop waiting for your mood, your past, your environment, or other people to change first. Without responsibility, your mind stays scattered. You explain why you cannot move. You justify why the habit failed. You wait for life to become easier before you become consistent. But every excuse that protects your comfort also delays your strength. It may feel like relief in the moment, but it quietly teaches your mind that your future is always controlled by something outside you. Responsibility gives your mind direction. It says, this is mine to improve. Not all at once, not perfectly, but honestly. When you take ownership, progress becomes less confusing because your energy stops leaking into blame. You begin to ask better questions. What can I do today? What can I remove? What can I repeat? That is where inner order begins. Your feelings are real, but they are not always reliable leaders. Some days you will feel tired, some days you will feel distracted. Some days you will feel resistance before doing even the smallest useful thing. If every feeling gets a vote, your direction becomes unstable. You start living by emotional weather instead of personal standards. This is where many people lose momentum. They do not quit because the goal stopped mattering. They quit because one uncomfortable feeling became more powerful than the promise they made. A bad mood cancels the routine. A little stress cancels the plan. A moment of boredom sends them back to the same distraction they said they wanted to escape. Calm strength begins when you stop arguing with every emotion. You notice the feeling, but you do not automatically obey it. You can be tired and still complete the small mission. You can be uncomfortable and still move. You can feel resistance and still choose direction. Self-control is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to act without being ruled by it. Your environment is always training you. The room you work in, the apps on your phone, the people around you, the food in your kitchen, the distractions within reach. Every part of your environment either makes the better action easier or makes the old pattern more convenient. Willpower matters, but environment decides how often willpower has to fight. If your phone is beside you during deep work, you are not just working. You are resisting interruption every few minutes. If junk food is always visible, you are not just eating better. You are negotiating with temptation all day. If your space is chaotic, your mind spends energy before the real task even begins. Small friction becomes quiet exhaustion. Make the right action easier to start. Put the book where you can see it. Put the phone farther away. Prepare the clothes. Clear the desk. Remove one distraction before you ask for more discipline. This is practical self-respect. You are not trying to become someone with endless willpower. You're building a life where progress has fewer enemies. Consistency becomes fragile when it depends on approval, attention, or outside validation. If you only feel motivated when someone notices, praises, supports, or encourages you, your progress becomes controlled by other people's reactions. You may not realize it at first, but you start needing emotional permission to keep going. This creates a quiet instability. You post the result and wait to feel proud. You share the plan and wait to feel supported. You improve for a few days, but if nobody sees it, the effort starts feeling invisible. Then the old thought returns. Maybe it does not matter. But your growth cannot depend on an audience. The deepest work often happens before anyone claps. Emotional independence means you learn to respect progress even when it is private. You complete the task because it aligns with who you are becoming, not because it gives you immediate attention. You let your own standards become the reward. And when your progress no longer needs constant validation, your consistency becomes quieter, stronger, and harder to break. A small action becomes easier to repeat when it is connected to a purpose. Without purpose, habits feel like random tasks. Wake up early, exercise, study, save money, focus, say no. Each action may be useful, but if it is disconnected from a deeper reason, your brain starts asking why it matters. Purpose gives effort emotional direction. This is why two people can do the same habit and feel completely different. One person sees exercise as punishment. Another sees it as protecting their energy, their confidence, and their future. One person sees studying as pressure. Another sees it as building freedom. The task may be the same, but the meaning behind it changes how the mind responds. Connect your micro-challenges to the life you are building. Do not just drink water, care for the body that carries your future. Do not just study for 15 minutes, build the skill that gives you options. Do not just avoid distraction, protect your attention from being rented by everything around you. Purpose does not remove effort, but it makes effort worth carrying. Quiet confidence is not built from loud declarations. It is built from evidence, the promises you keep when nobody is watching, the small tasks you finish when your mood is not perfect, the moments where you return after slipping instead of turning one mistake into a full surrender. Confidence grows when your behavior becomes something your mind can trust. You can feel the difference between forced confidence and earned confidence. Forced confidence needs to be announced. Earned confidence does not. It is steady because it comes from repetition. You know you can act because you have acted before. You know you can recover because you have recovered before. You know one bad day does not own you because you have stopped giving it that power. This is the final reward of making progress easier. You are not just completing tasks. You are becoming someone who no longer needs chaos to feel alive, pressure to move, or shame to change. You are learning to build from calm, and when your mind sees that you keep showing up, motivation stops being something you chase and becomes something that meets you on the path. Your motivation did not die after 3 days because you were hopeless. It faded because your system was asking your brain to work hard now for a reward it could barely feel. Once you understand that, the solution becomes clearer. You stop treating progress like punishment. You stop waiting for perfect emotion. You stop demanding a complete life transformation from a mind that simply needs proof, feedback, and direction. You begin with small missions. You make progress visible. You protect your attention. You rebuild trust through promises you can actually keep. And slowly, the version of you that kept avoiding the work begins to feel safe enough to move. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming consistent in a way your real life can support. If this message helped you see your patterns more clearly, subscribe and keep building a life where progress feels possible, honest, and quietly strong.